47 species lived together on Threshold 9, and not one of them understood humans. Kira had worked the sensor hub for 12 cycles. Her crystalline skin could feel electromagnetic waves the way others felt heat. She knew every species on the station by their energy signature. The Trethians hummed low and steady. The Dorothy clicked with sharp pulses. The Kelrani sang in frequencies that tickled her bones. But humans were different. Ravi Anand walked past her station every morning at the same time. He was a xenobiologist, quiet and careful, always wearing his environmental helmet like all humans did. And every time he passed, Kira's sensors flickered. Just for a moment. Just enough to notice. She had never told anyone about this. Today, something else flickered. Something far away. Unidentified signature at perimeter grid 7. Her console announced. Kira turned her attention to the readings and felt her skin go cold. The signature made no sense. It absorbed her scans like water swallowing stones. Every probe she sent came back empty. The anomaly was there. She could feel its presence pressing against the edge of her awareness. But her instruments showed nothing useful. She reported it immediately. Within the hour, Director Somal called an emergency meeting. The Trethian administrator was large and amphibious, with wet skin that glistened under the station lights. His voice was calm, but Kira could feel the stress radiating from his bioelectric field. "Show us," he said. Kira projected the readings onto the main display. 40 representatives from different species stared at the swirling emptiness where data should have been. "What is it?" someone asked. "We do not know," Kira admitted. "Our sensors cannot classify it." "Then use better sensors," said Representative Nalith, a Kelrani diplomat with scales the color of dry blood. "This is a survey station. Surely we have the equipment." "We have used everything," Kira said. "Electromagnetic, gravitational, quantum resonance. The anomaly absorbs or distorts all readings. It is as if it exists outside our detection range." The room erupted in worried voices. Kira understood their fear. Every species on this station depended on sensors. They navigated by sensors, communicated through sensors, even perceived each other through sensors. To encounter something invisible was to encounter something terrifying. Director Somal raised a webbed hand for silence. "How large is this anomaly?" "Unknown. It could be the size of a shuttle or the size of a moon. We cannot tell." "Is it approaching?" "Yes. Slowly. It will reach the station in approximately 3 cycles." The meeting dissolved into arguments about protocols and procedures. Kira stopped listening. Her mind kept returning to Ravi Anand and his flickering signal. She found him in the environmental monitoring lab, studying atmospheric samples under a scanner. His helmet sat on the desk beside him, and Kira realized she had never seen his face before. He had brown skin, dark eyes, and black hair cut short. He looked tired but focused. "May I speak with you?" she asked. Ravi looked up, surprised. Humans rarely received visitors. They kept to themselves, still new to galactic society, still considered strange and unknowable. "Of course," he said. "What do you need?" Kira hesitated. She was about to say something that could make her seem foolish or paranoid. But the anomaly was coming, and she had no other ideas. "When you walk past my station, my sensors flicker," she said. "Every time. Just for a moment." "Why?" Ravi frowned. "I do not know. Human biology is not fully documented in galactic databases. We have only been part of the community for 30 years. Do other species cause this effect?" "Not that I have noticed." Kira moved closer, lowering her voice. "There is something approaching the station. Something our sensors cannot see. I think humans might perceive things differently than we do. I think you might be able to see what we cannot." Ravi was quiet for a long moment. Then he picked up his helmet and looked at it thoughtfully. "On Earth," he said, "we live for thousands of years without sensors. We learned to use our eyes, our ears, our instincts. When humans joined the galactic community, we adopted your technology because it was better. But we did not lose our old abilities. We just stopped using them. Could you use them now?" "Maybe." He set the helmet down again. "What do you want me to do?" Kira felt hope spark in her chest. Come to the observation deck. Look at the anomaly with your own eyes. I will monitor what happens to the sensors when you do. Ravi nodded slowly. All right, let us try. They walked together through the station corridors. Other species stepped aside to let them pass, watching the human with curious and nervous eyes. Kira felt their stares like static on her skin. The observation deck was a wide room with transparent walls, offering a view of the stars in every direction. Kira pointed toward a patch of space that looked empty but felt wrong. There, she said. That is where the anomaly should be. Ravi moved to the window and stared into the darkness. Kira watched her portable scanner, waiting. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Ravi took a deep breath and closed his eyes. When he opened them again, something shifted in his expression. Focus, intensity, purpose. The scanner in Kira's hands went completely dark. She looked up at Ravi in shock. He stood motionless at the window, his entire body still, his breathing slow and steady. And around him, in a perfect sphere, every sensor on the observation deck had stopped working. For the first time in her life, Kira could not perceive another living being standing right beside her. Ravi, she whispered, what do you see? He did not answer immediately. When he finally spoke, his voice was filled with wonder. It is beautiful, he said, and it is alive. No one had ever described Kira as afraid. She had survived asteroid storms, system failures, and hostile encounters with unknown vessels. But standing in complete sensory darkness next to a human she could not detect, she understood fear for the first time. I cannot perceive you, she said, her voice shaking. My entire body is designed to feel energy fields, and you have become invisible. Ravi turned from the window. The moment his concentration broke, Kira's senses flooded back. She gasped at the sudden return of sensation, like surfacing from deep water. I am sorry, Ravi said. I did not mean to frighten you. How did you do that? I do not know. I was just looking. Really looking the way my grandmother taught me when I was young. She said that seeing requires a silence inside the mind. Kira stared at him with new understanding. Humans were not primitive. They were simply different. They had evolved abilities that galactic technology could not replicate or even detect. We must tell Director Somel, she said. You saw something. You said it was alive. Ravi nodded. It is massive, larger than this station, and it is made of colors I have never seen before. I do not have words for them. They found Director Somel in his office, surrounded by advisors from 6 different species. When Kira explained what had happened, the room fell silent. You are telling me, Somel said slowly, that this human created a sensor blackout simply by concentrating? Yes, Kira said, and he could see the anomaly when none of our instruments could. Somel turned to Ravi. Is this true? I saw something, Ravi said carefully. I cannot prove it, but it was there. A creature of some kind, drifting toward us. A creature? One of the advisors laughed nervously. Nothing that large could be alive. Our sensors would have detected biological signatures. Your sensors detect what they are designed to detect, Ravi said. This being exists outside those parameters. The argument continued for hours. Some believed Ravi. Others accused him of deception or madness. Kira defended him whenever she could, but she was only a technician, not a diplomat. Finally, Dr. Fatima Khalil arrived. She was another human, a physicist with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been conducting experiments in the station's research wing when she heard about the commotion. Let me understand, she said, cutting through the noise. You are debating whether humans have unusual perceptual abilities, yes? We are debating whether this human is telling the truth, Nalith said coldly. Fatima smiled without warmth. Humans evolved on Earth, a planet with intense electromagnetic interference from our sun and magnetic field. Our brains developed natural shielding to filter out noise and focus on important signals. This is basic human neurology. What does that have to do with sensors? Somel asked. Your sensors work by detecting energy emissions from living beings. Every species broadcasts a signature, but human brains do not broadcast constantly. When we focus deeply, we become electromagnetically quiet. We create gaps in your detection networks. The room absorbed this information in stunned silence. You were saying, Kira said, that humans are naturally invisible to our technology when they choose to be. Not invisible, Fatima corrected, just undetectable by your specific methods. And apparently, we can perceive things that your methods cannot. Soma leaned back in his chair, his webbed fingers pressed together as he thought. The anomaly will reach us in less than 2 cycles. We cannot fight what we cannot see. We cannot negotiate with what we cannot communicate with. He looked at Ravi. Can you make contact with this creature? I do not know, Ravi said honestly. I could only see it. I did not try to communicate. Try now, Somel said. Go to the observation deck. Make contact if you can. Kira will monitor your attempt. Ravi hesitated. If I concentrate deeply enough to communicate, I might create a larger blackout. Systems could fail. People could be endangered. We will clear the area, Somel said. This is our only option. Kira led Ravi back to the observation deck. The corridor had been evacuated. Emergency lights cast red shadows on the walls. Kira felt the absence of other beings like a cold wind. Are you ready? She asked. Ravi removed his helmet and set it aside. No, but I will try anyway. He walked to the window and stood before the stars. Kira watched her scanner, waiting for the darkness to come. It came slowly this time. The sensor readings faded like a sunset, dimming rather than vanishing. Ravi's breathing deepened. His body became still as stone. The blackout spread. First the observation deck, then the corridor outside, then the entire section of the station. Kira floated in emptiness. She could see Ravi with her eyes, standing motionless at the window, but she could not feel him at all. It was like watching a ghost. Minutes passed. Kira forced herself to remain calm. Then Ravi spoke. His voice was distant, dreaming. It sees me, he said. It knows I am here. It is trying to speak, but I cannot understand. What is it saying? Patterns, colors, feelings. It is lonely. It has been alone for a very long time. Kira felt tears forming in her eyes, though she did not know why. Can you help it? I do not know. Ravi paused. It is afraid. It came here because it heard us, the noise of our sensors. It thought we might be like it, but we are not. We are too small, too quiet, too different. Is it dangerous? Ravi was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice cracked with emotion. No, he said. It is just lost, and it has been lost for longer than this station has existed. The sensors flickered back to life. Ravi slumped against the window, exhausted. Kira rushed to support him. I know what it wants, he said quietly. It wants to go home, and I think I know how to help it. The council chamber smelled like fear. Kira could taste it in the air, a mixture of chemical signals from dozens of species, all experiencing the same emotion. They sat in curved rows facing the central platform, where Ravi stood alone, that he looked small against the massive display screen behind him. The screen showed nothing but static where the anomaly drifted. It calls itself a wanderer, Ravi said. That is the closest translation I can manage. It is one of many beings that travel between galaxies, existing in frequencies that our technology cannot detect. How do you know this? Nalith demanded. You spoke with it for only minutes. It does not communicate with words. It uses emotions, images, memories. When it touched my mind, I understood centuries of its existence in moments. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Telepathy was known among some species, but humans had never demonstrated such abilities. This is impossible, Nalith said. Humans are not telepathic. We are not, Fatima agreed, standing beside Ravi. But the Wanderer is. It reached out to Ravi because he was the only one quiet enough to hear. Our minds generated less interference than the sensor networks. Director Somel raised his hand for silence. Tell us more about these wanderers. Where do they come from? Ravi closed his eyes, remembering. They existed before any of our civilizations. Before your species learned to walk upright, before mine climbed down from trees, the wanderers were already old. They lived in the spaces between stars, feeding on cosmic radiation and gravitational waves. Then why have we never detected them? Someone asked. Because when your civilizations developed sensor technology, You filled the universe with noise. Electromagnetic signals, quantum probes, gravitational scanners. To the Wanderers, it was like standing in a room full of screaming voices. They fled to the edges of galaxies, to places your technology had not reached. Kira felt the weight of this revelation settle over the room. For thousands of years, galactic civilization had expanded its sensor networks, believing they were mapping reality. Instead, they had been driving ancient beings into exile. This one became separated from its kind. Ravi continued. It was drawn here by the power of our sensor array. The signals caused it pain, but it came anyway, hoping to find others like itself. Instead, it found only noise and blindness. What does it want? Somal asked. To go home, to rejoin its people in the dark spaces beyond our reach. Nalith stood abruptly. This is absurd. You expect us to believe that a creature the size of a moon is lonely? That it has feelings? This is a human fantasy. Then explain the sensor blackouts, Kira said, surprising herself with her boldness. Explain why our technology fails around this being. Explain why Ravi can see it and we cannot. I cannot explain it, Nalith admitted. But I refuse to accept this story without proof. Then I will give you proof, Ravi said quietly. He walked to the window at the edge of the chamber. The view showed empty space, but Kira knew the Wanderer was there, invisible and waiting. Watch the screens, Ravi said. Watch what happens when I remove my helmet. He unclasped the helmet and lifted it from his head. Then he pressed his palm against the window and closed his eyes. The lights flickered. The display screens filled with static. Sensors across the chamber went dark one by one, spreading outward from Ravi like ripples in water. Kira felt her electromagnetic sense fade into nothing. The world became flat, colorless, empty. She could see with her eyes, but feel nothing else. It was terrifying and beautiful at the same time. Then something else happened. The window began to glow, not with mechanical light, but with something deeper, something that seemed to come from the space itself. Colors appeared that Kira had no names for, swirling and pulsing in patterns that made her hearts ache with their beauty. The Wanderer was showing itself, IT pressed against the window like a child pressing against glass, curious and hopeful. Kira saw vast wings of light, eyes like galaxies, a body that stretched beyond the limits of her vision. It was alive in a way that made everything else seem small and temporary. Do you see? Ravi whispered. Kira nodded, unable to speak. The vision lasted only seconds. Then Ravi released his concentration, and the sensors roared back to life. The colors vanished. The window became ordinary glass again, but Kira would never forget what she had seen. The council chamber was silent. Even Nalith had no arguments left. Director Somal spoke first. What must we do to help this creature return home? Ravi turned to face them. His face was pale with exhaustion, but his eyes were determined. The Wanderer cannot travel through space filled with sensor signals. The noise blinds it, confuses it, causes it pain. To reach its home, it needs a path of silence. A path of silence, Somal repeated. Yes, we must create a corridor through galactic space where all sensors are turned off. A dark road stretching from here to the edge of explored territory. The Wanderer will follow this path to rejoin its kind. The implications hung in the air like smoke. Turning off sensors meant traveling blind. It meant losing contact with stations, ships, and colonies. It meant trusting in darkness. How far? Somal asked. Ravi hesitated. 300 light years. The chamber exploded into chaos. Representatives shouted over each other, some in fear, some in anger, some in disbelief. The idea was impossible. No civilization would agree to blind itself for the sake of a creature they could not even perceive. But Kira remembered the Wanderer's face pressed against the window. She remembered its loneliness and its hope. We have to try, she said, though no one was listening. We owe it that much. 3 days of arguments had left everyone exhausted. Kira had stopped counting the number of times representatives stormed out of meetings only to return hours later with new objections. The debate had spread beyond Threshold 9. Word of the Wanderer reached other stations, other worlds, other governments. Some called Ravi a prophet. Others called him a fraud. Most simply called him dangerous. Kira found him in the observation deck, sitting on the floor with his back against the window. The Wanderer drifted outside, invisible to everyone but him. "How is it?" she asked. "Patient," Ravi said. "It has waited for millions of years. It can wait a few more days." Kira sat beside him. Her crystalline skin reflected the starlight, but she felt cold inside. "The council will vote tomorrow. I do not think they will agree to help. I know. Nalith has convinced many representatives that you are manipulating us. He says humans want to disable our sensor networks, so we become dependent on your species." Ravi laughed quietly. It was a sad sound. Humans could barely build a spaceship 30 years ago. We are not capable of such schemes. I know that, but fear makes people stupid. They sat in silence for a while. The stars turned slowly outside the window, indifferent to the struggles of small beings. "Can I ask you something?" Kira said. "Of course. What is it like?" Seeing the Wanderer, Ravi thought for a moment. Imagine living your entire life in a room with bright lights. The lights are everywhere, constant, unavoidable. You forget that darkness exists. Then one day, someone turns off the lights, and you see the stars for the first time. Kira tried to imagine it. For her species, sensors were like breathing. They did not choose to use them any more than they chose to have hearts. "Are you afraid?" she asked. "Of what will happen if the council says no?" "Yes," Ravi admitted. "Not for myself. For the Wanderer. It came here hoping for help. If we refuse, it will have to continue alone. It might never find its way home. And if the council says yes, will you be afraid then?" Ravi smiled slightly. "Then I will be terrified. I will have to guide an ancient being through 300 light years of darkness using nothing but my eyes and my instincts. One mistake could doom it forever." The next morning, the council assembled for the final vote. Representatives from 47 species filled the chamber. Director Somal stood at the podium, his amphibious face unreadable. "We have debated long enough," he said. "The question before us is simple. Do we create a sensor dark corridor to help the Wanderer return home? Or do we refuse and hope it leaves on its own?" Nalith stood immediately. "I must speak against this proposal. We have only the word of one human that this creature exists. We have no independent verification, and we're being asked to blind ourselves across 300 light years of space. The risks are unacceptable." "The creature exists," Kira said, standing without permission. "I saw it myself. Ravi showed it to all of us. You saw lights and colors," Nalith countered. "Hallucinations caused by sensor failure. There is no proof that anything is actually out there." "Then explain the sensor failures," Fatima said. "Our equipment does not malfunction randomly. Something is causing these blackouts." "Human interference," Nalith said coldly. "Your species creates electromagnetic disruptions. Perhaps this is all a human trick." Ravi stood slowly. The chamber fell silent. "You are afraid," he said to Nalith. "I understand. Your entire civilization is built on sensors. They are your eyes, your ears, your connection to reality. Asking you to turn them off is like asking you to stop breathing." He walked toward the central platform, passing rows of worried faces. "But consider this. Before your species developed sensors, how did you survive? How did you hunt, communicate, find your way? You used your natural abilities, your instincts, your courage. That was primitive," Nalith said. "We evolved beyond such limitations." "Did you evolve? Or did you simply forget?" The question hung in the air. Ravi continued speaking. "Humans are new to galactic society. We are considered backwards, primitive, strange. But we remember how to see without sensors. We remember how to trust without verification. We remember how to live in darkness." He turned to address the entire chamber. "The Wanderer is not a threat. It is a lost traveler, separated from its family, seeking a path home. We have the power to help it. The only question is whether we have the courage." Somal nodded slowly. "Thank you, Ravi. We will now vote." The voting took only minutes. Each representative pressed a button on their console, casting their choice in secret. Kira watched the numbers climb on the display screen, her heart's pounding. When the final count appeared, she could not believe it. The proposal passed. Barely, by a margin of only 7 votes, but it passed. Nalith stormed out of the chamber without speaking. Several other representatives followed him. But most remained, staring at the result with a mixture of fear and hope. Somel turned to Ravi. "You have your corridor. How do we begin?" Ravi took a deep breath. For a moment, Kira saw the weight of responsibility settle onto his shoulders. Then he straightened and met the director's eyes. "We will need to coordinate with every station and ship along the route," he said. "And I will need a vessel that can travel without sensors. One that I can guide using only human navigation." "You will have it," Somel said. "When do you leave?" Ravi looked toward the window where the Wanderer waited, invisible and patient. "Tomorrow," he said. "We have kept it waiting long enough." The shuttle was small, built for survey missions, not interstellar journeys. Kira stood in the cargo bay, watching technicians remove its sensor arrays piece by piece. Without them, the vessel looked naked and vulnerable. "You do not have to come," Ravi said, appearing beside her. "This is my responsibility." "I want to understand," Kira replied. "I want to know what it feels like to travel blind. It will be terrifying." "I know." Fatima joined them, carrying a bag of supplies. "Manual star charts," she said, handing them to Ravi. "Paper maps showing the positions of stars along our route. Ancient human navigation technology." Ravi smiled at the thick bundle of printed pages. "My great-grandmother would be proud." The departure was quiet. No crowds gathered to watch. Most of the station's residents preferred to pretend the mission was not happening. They had agreed to create the dark corridor, but they did not want to witness it. Director Somel came to see them off. He pressed his webbed hand against Ravi's shoulder in the Trethian gesture of respect. "The first stations have already begun shutting down their sensors," he said. "The corridor will be ready when you arrive." "Thank you," Ravi said, "for believing me." "I did not believe you at first," Somel admitted. "But Kira did. That was enough." The shuttle launched into darkness. As soon as they had cleared the station, Ravi switched off the remaining systems one by one. Navigation went dark. Communications fell silent. Even the basic life support sensors were disabled, replaced by simple gauges that required no electronic signals. Kira had never experienced such emptiness. Her entire body felt hollow, as if someone had removed her internal organs. She could see with her eyes, but seeing was not enough. She had always felt the universe around her, sensed its electromagnetic pulse, tasted its energy signatures. Now, there was nothing. "Breathe," Ravi said gently. "The panic will pass." "How do you live like this?" Kira gasped. "This is normal for us. We feel alone in our heads all the time. We learn to find comfort in it." Hours passed. Kira gradually adjusted to the silence, though she never became comfortable with it. She watched Ravi work, plotting their course using nothing but the star charts and a small optical telescope. "There," he said, pointing through the viewport. "That cluster of blue stars. We align with them and fly straight until I see the red giant on our port side." "How do you know we are going the right direction?" "I do not know. Not with certainty. I trust my observations and my instincts." "That is terrifying." Ravi nodded. "Yes, but is also freeing. When you cannot verify everything, you learn to accept uncertainty. You learn to move forward without complete information." Outside the shuttle, the Wanderer followed. Kira could not see it, but Ravi described its movements as they traveled. It swam through space like a creature through water, its massive wings catching solar winds, its body shifting through colors that human eyes could barely perceive. "It is happy," Ravi said one morning. "Happier than before. It knows we are helping, can understand our speech, not words, but it understands intentions. It knows we mean no harm." They passed the first station on the corridor route. Its lights were dark, its sensor arrays powered down. Kira knew that hundreds of beings inside were sitting in the same emptiness she felt, waiting for the nightmare to end. "Do they hate us?" she asked. "Probably," Ravi admitted, "but they agreed anyway. That matters more than their feelings." The journey continued. Days blended together in the darkness. Kira learned to read the star charts, though her hands shook every time she unfolded them. She learned to trust Ravi's observations, even when they contradicted everything her instincts screamed. One night, she woke from troubled sleep to find Ravi floating at the viewport, staring out at nothing she could see. "What is wrong?" she asked. "The Wanderer is singing," he said. "Listen." Kira listened with all her senses, but heard only silence. "I cannot hear it." "I know, but it is beautiful. A song about home, about family, about the joy of returning after a long absence." Tears formed in Kira's eyes. "I wish I could hear it." Ravi turned to her. In the dim emergency lighting, his face looked ancient and young at the same time. "You are hearing it," he said, "through me. I am translating it into words, into emotions you can understand. That is what humans do. We take things others cannot perceive and make them real. Is that why the universe needs humans?" Ravi smiled. "I do not know if the universe needs anyone, but I think there is value in beings who can bridge different ways of seeing, who can stand between worlds and help them understand each other." The final week of the journey was the hardest. The dark corridor stretched into unexplored space, regions where no galactic civilization had ever traveled. There were no stations here, no ships, no signals of any kind, just stars and darkness and the invisible presence of the Wanderer. "We are close," Ravi said on the last morning. "I can feel it." "Feel what?" "Others. More Wanderers, waiting at the edge of the galaxy." Kira strained her senses but felt nothing. She had to trust him completely now. There was no other choice. The shuttle drifted through the final stretch of darkness. Ravi stood at the viewport, his helmet abandoned, his eyes fixed on something she could not see. "There they are," he whispered. "Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, waiting for their lost one to come home." The edge of the galaxy looked like every other part of space to Kira. Stars scattered across blackness, distant and cold. But Ravi saw something else entirely. "They are embracing it," he said, his voice breaking with emotion. "The lost one has found its family." Kira pressed her face against the viewport, desperate to see what he described. She saw nothing but empty space. Yet something inside her responded to the joy in Ravi's voice. She felt tears running down her crystalline cheeks without understanding why. "What are they doing?" she asked. "Dancing, spinning around each other in patterns that spell out names and histories. The lost one is telling them everything that happened, showing them memories of the station, of us, of the journey through darkness." "Are they angry?" "That we drove their kind away with our sensors." Ravi was quiet for a moment. "No, they do not understand anger the way we do. They are simply grateful that we helped, that we chose kindness over fear." The shuttle floated in silence as hours passed. Kira watched Ravi watch the Wanderers, his face reflecting colors she could not see. She had never felt more blind or more connected to another being at the same time. Finally, Ravi turned from the window. His eyes were wet, but he was smiling. "It is done," he said. "The lost one has gone home. Its family is taking it deeper into the darkness, to places no sensor will ever reach. Will we see them again? I do not think so, but they left something for us. A gift." He pointed toward the viewport. Kira looked and saw a single point of light where nothing had been before. It pulsed gently, rhythmically like a heartbeat. "What is it?" "A marker. A beacon that exists in frequencies only humans can perceive. If we ever need their help, we can find them here." Kira stared at the invisible light with wonder. Humanity will have a connection to beings as old as the stars themselves. "Not just humanity," Ravi said. "All of us." The Wanderers wanted the gift to be for everyone who helped, but they knew that only humans could receive it directly. We are meant to be the bridge. The journey home took weeks. Without sensors, they traveled slowly, carefully, following star charts and trusting instincts. Kira found that she minded the darkness less now. It was still uncomfortable, still wrong, but she had learned to endure it. When they finally reached Threshold 9, the station blazed with light. Sensors were active again, filling the void with signals and noise. Kira's body flooded with sensation as they approached. It was overwhelming after so long in silence. Director Somel met them at the docking bay. He looked older than before, worn down by the stress of maintaining the dark corridor while facing political pressure from dozens of angry governments. "You succeeded," he said. It was not a question. "Yes," Ravi replied. "The Wanderer is home." Word spread quickly. Within hours, representatives from across the station gathered to hear their report. The council chamber was packed, with beings standing in the aisles and crowding the doorways. Ravi told the story simply. He described the journey, the Wanderer's reunion, and the gift they had left behind. When he finished, the chamber was silent. Then Nalith stood. Kira expected anger, accusations, denial. Instead, the Kelrani diplomat walked slowly to the central platform and stood before Ravi. "I was wrong," he said. His voice was stiff, as if the words caused physical pain. "I feared what I could not understand. I accuse you of deception because the truth was too strange to accept." He extended his scaled hand in the human gesture of greeting. "Thank you for helping the lost one. And thank you for showing us that there is more to the universe than our sensors can reveal." Ravi shook his hand. The chamber erupted in applause. Later, after the celebrations faded and the crowds dispersed, Kira found Ravi alone on the observation deck. He stood at the window, looking out at the stars without his helmet. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "About home," he said. "About Earth. I have not been there in years, but I miss it sometimes." "What do you miss?" "The darkness. On Earth, we have places where there are no lights, no signals, no sensors. Just stars and silence. My grandmother used to take me to the desert at night and teach me to read the sky." Kira moved to stand beside him. "Will you go back?" "Someday. But not yet. There is too much work to do here." "What kind of work?" Ravi smiled. "Teaching. There are others who want to learn what I know. How to see without sensors. How to listen without instruments. How to trust in darkness. Would you teach me?" He looked at her with surprise and warmth. "You already learned the hardest lesson. You traveled across 300 light years with your senses blind and your faith in a stranger. There is not much more I can teach you." Kira thought about the journey, about the terror and wonder of traveling through emptiness. She thought about the Wanderer pressing its face against the window, the color she had glimpsed when Ravi showed it to the council, the gift left behind at the edge of the galaxy. "Thank you," she said, "for everything." Ravi shook his head. "I did not do anything special. I just saw what was there and told others about it. Anyone could have done the same." "No," Kira said firmly. "They could not. Only humans can bridge the visible and invisible worlds. Only humans could have helped the lost one find its way home." Ravi was quiet for a long moment. Then he picked up his helmet and looked at it thoughtfully. "Maybe that is what we are for," he said finally. "Not to be the strongest or the smartest, but to be the ones who see what others cannot. The ones who walk between worlds and bring them together." He set the helmet aside and turned back to the stars. "Maybe that is enough.